I'm going to paint on this canvas today. One of my favorite things to do is to paint on something that's partially started. It's much more interesting to me than to break out a brand new stark white canvas. So this is the one I'm going to work on today. You notice how it's kind of chaotic, the colors, there's small patches of color everywhere. I want to show you a magic trick to create more harmony on something like this. So I have a folded up paper towel and I'm going to get it wet, fairly wet, and I'm going to dip it into, in this case, it's Indian yellow. What I like to do is find a transparent color, and Indian yellow is one of those. You can use any color, but a transparent color works best. And I'm going over the whole thing with this yellow, and it's just a very small change, but it harmonizes this whole chaotic mess that I have going here. You almost don't notice it, but it has a slight yellow cast. If it's too much, you can wipe some of it off. There's my magic trick for the day, how to harmonize a chaotic canvas. Okay, now I see something in this painting that I'm going to follow, and I'm just going to see if I can turn this into something a little more coherent. I always start everything out as a abstract, so this is a normal. What you're seeing there would be fairly normal for me, but I've got this idea. Let's see if I can make it happen. I am using primaries today. I have a blue, a yellow, a red, and in my case it's more of a magenta, and then black and white. And those are the only colors I'm using. And of course with the primaries you can mix other colors from those, but I always find it a little easier to not put out every color under the sun for a painting. I have this idea. I won't tell you what it is. I'm just going to let it happen, and then we'll see how it works out. It's definitely a fun theme. I don't like to do depressing subject matter. I like upbeat, fun stuff when I can do it. No photo reference. I find once in a while I'll look at a photo to try and figure out what something looks like, but if you get hung up on a bunch of photo references, you really start to tighten up. So this is just imaginary, which is what most of my stuff is. I find it much more rewarding to stay loose and fun than to rely on a photo reference or a depiction of something. There was a little bear down here that I had done previously a while back. I'm going to see if I can leave that because it's kind of cute. But I'm following kind of what was here previously. There's some pink, there's some green. Now I have to get some green in here. Keep that little bear hanging in there. I also use rather large-ish brushes. It helps keep you loose and not too detailed. Also, making little movements with your brush strokes makes it look kind of more effortless. No matter how long you work on something, if you keep fat, juicy brush strokes, it's kind of a nice look, and people enjoy looking at something that looks like it was effortless, even though we know it's not. It also creates some movement instead of being static. Just have this rough idea. We'll see if it can work out. So here's the idea. Question is, what color do I do? Got a figure here in the middle that I'm going to pull out. I think if I stay kind of whitish, lighter, I got a dark sky, so I want a light figure here. So I mixed up a little bit of purple, but since it's pretty light, it's still kind of, it's light compared to this. And I can always adjust the color, but I have to use something to get this down, get it started. Let me see. Scratch in a little bit. This may get covered up, but if I scratch with my stick, it kind of shows the color underneath. I can do that down anywhere where the paint's still wet. Okay. Not sure about that. Okay. Now I want this horse to have a rider. I usually do like an oversized horse and the rider's small, like, you know, maybe a girl. I was a horse lover growing up, and this is all that I thought about was horses, literally horses and art. I was either drawing horses or riding horses, or wish I was riding horses. So this is kind of a fantasy thing that I like. I know there's a lot of horse lovers out there still to this day, so I continue this theme a lot. And you know, when you're working on shapes, you've got the negative aspect of it to use as well. My moon's gotten a little muddy, but that's okay. I can always adjust. In fact, it may look better. Actually, is this a sun or a moon? I don't even know. I've got a night sky going on over here. I can decide if I want it to be moon-like or what. I'm not sure. It's kind of whatever you want it to be. Again, using the negative space to define the shape. And then you have to kind of critique your shape so it looks kind of how you want it, more or less. It needs to come out this way just a little bit more. This big brush really is non-exact. See, I think the green rider's a little funny looking. That's a little strange as well. Yes. restate this, get some white in there, knock that down. Probably should knock that down, make it less bright. To make things less bright, you can just start mixing other colors in there. There was a little green in here. It's going to knock this down a little bit. The other thing that could happen could be some less definition on the edges, which may or may not be okay. Another little weapon, paper towel. It's a green cheese moon right now. Yeah, maybe less defined is good. I'm going to work on my horse shape. I didn't like the angle of his head. Head down a little bit. This is the back and forth. Now he's kind of blue, got a little too blue. I actually like the purpley look. So we get some of that back going. It separates it from the background a little better. When people see the finished painting, they won't see all this back and forth and the work that you have to do. It can be a little bit of a struggle if you go too much, not enough, too much, not enough. It's starting to get there. I like horse shapes that I like. I like a big, heavier horse. I'm not into the wispy, delicate horses. I like big ones. Not sure about the bear either. He might have to go because this horse is hind legs are disappearing. Behind the bear, so this is a horse taking off in flight. He's further up in the air now, so I'm bringing the ground down. Putting the sky behind him a little more. Of course, that means this thing has to come down a little bit to make sense there. That's better. I want to exaggerate the smallness of the rider. Very small passenger. I gotta lean forward a little bit to hang on to the horse. Another thing I like to do with my horses is when I have riders on the horses is no bridle, no saddle. It just represents freedom and fantasy. So that rider's getting smaller, which is good. You can get some of this back here so it's not such a blobby figure. Start to cut in a little bit. Flying mane is absolutely mandatory because that creates some motion. And I have a very blunt instrument, so it's not going to be real precise, which is good. I don't want that. Flying tail, another critical element to help you show movement. This horse can be any color. It just needs to be, since this is darker back here, it needs to be lighter and maybe a little warmer too. It could be warmed up slightly. Put a touch of yellow in this. Cool colors recede, warm colors advance. So you use that to your benefit if you want this to, your subject to come forward. And having a little, these tend to be, this whole painting kind of is cool, more or less cool colors, so having some warmth added back in is kind of all right. Keep it light, but different color than this. Always a push and pull. Keep the differences so it doesn't all just run together. I'm going to go back down here to the pink stuff, which is, I guess, flowers. You can vary the shades. They don't all need to be the same shade of pink, so I put a little yellow in there, and so these would be slightly more orange, and then they get pinker, just to make some differences. Mix some more green. This is just a suggestion of flowers. We don't know what kind they are. It doesn't matter. It's just the idea. So the bear is gone now officially. We just didn't. I couldn't make it work. I liked it, but it didn't make that much sense. So you have this horse coming up out of the flowers and green stuff. Also, if you look at a night sky, it's darker and cooler up here, and it gets a little lighter and slightly warmer down here. So I'm going to do that a little bit by adding, just using what I have on my palette down here. I have a lighter blue with a little yellow in it. Just going to make the horizon slightly warmer. Whenever you do a sky, it's always lighter, warmer at the bottom, towards the earth. And it gets cooler as you go up. It's a good landscape tip. I gotta blend that in a little bit. So this is a pretty wild start. I can see the horse needs some work. It's a little bland. Color-wise, lacks a little something. But what I'm going to do for now is get out my stick and define the horse with some black, outliney kind of thing. Helps define the shapes a little more. can even hit a little black detail down here. Kind of makes it look a little more defined. What I'm going to do up here while this blue is still wet is do some kind of Van Gogh-like movement. Kind of like stars, but I usually make, you know, dots for stars, so I wanted to keep this a little more, looks like, with a little more Van Gogh kind of movement. Got the Starry Night thing going on. And then you can intersperse it with some darks. Restate some of the dark with straight blue. Let me calm that down just a little bit. It's always back and forth. Very rarely does something go down and you say, yep. So, but this is what's fun. This is like, oh wow, what will happen if I did this? Can't get hung up on the outcome. See how that looks when I step back. Pretty good. Looks like some movement. I wanted a little bit of action here. You could also, though, add some dots that are more stationary. A few, maybe. Small ones down here. I don't like that one. Flying too close to the ground. I have a little dark muddy color. It's blue with a little orange got mixed in there. That actually, it's nice to have a little bit of dullness there. It's that way everything on this picture isn't like bright. My brushes are all full of paint now. I don't have any clean brushes, and you know, you don't want to stop and clean them, get clean color or anything. So you just kind of go with what's on there. And it makes it kind of interesting. See a little blue mixed in there. That actually looks all right. Not everything's separated. It's a kind of a fine mess. So I'm gonna break away from the colors that I have here and give her some flying red hair. I mixed up red and yellow, and I have some straight red here, but that was a little bright, so. She has long hair, that's a little while. I don't know. Seems like I can calm it down a little bit, maybe. Let's see. She needs a little bit of a face. I had some mixed up and I don't know where it went. It's too yellow. Looks too much like the moon. A little bit of a face, a little bit of a color down here, a little color here. That might work. Nope. I want her to be kind of waif-like. And of course I've got a gigantic club of a brush, which isn't helping me, but that's okay. Again, I don't want to get into tiny brushes and little fussy details. So also, you know, I'm looking at this up close. The camera's a couple feet away, but when people look at paintings on a wall, they're looking at, generally speaking, about 8 feet away at first. And so things that look messy up close look kind of okay from a distance, even though they're really loose. And I love this loose stuff. The looser the better. If I can show something in a really loose way, it's just great. So on this horse, give him, even though he's a light color already, we give him some whiteness, a white blaze-ish. Maybe some white on his leg. Always have to step back and look at shape issues. Even though this is a very loose shape, I still see things that I like to adjust, especially when I'm doing horses. Make some slight adjustments on how fat or skinny he is. I'm going to stop on this for now. This probably needs more work, but I like this kind of fresh start, and I don't want to just keep going and going and overworking it. This will give me a chance to look at it after it's dry and see what I can do to... It already pops, but if I can do that, those maybe some minor, final, interesting little bits of, I hate to call it detail, but it could be, then we'll call it finished after that. But for now, I'm done, and keep on a lookout for part 2.